Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and this is another Forbidden Music, but a bit of a special one because my technology has got a pretty significant upgrade. I'm going to tell you all about one of the things that it's doing. And this is the record we're doing it with. It is, of course, the Beatles' White Album. Here they are. There we go. I can also just use the front surface of it. If I position it just right, you can at least see the serial number there, and perhaps even the embossing. Where you can just barely see the Beatles embossed on the cover. The song I'm playing off of this record today is While My Guitar Gently Weeps, and it's for a very specific reason. And I'm sorry I can't play it for you properly. You'll hear little snippets of it, and then they will orient you as to where in the song you are. And then you'll see it in Airwindows Meter, but the new version of Airwindows Meter, and it will demonstrate a particular point that I'm making. Namely, the new Airwindows Meter not only tracks hit record score, and it's doing a better job of that than it ever has because it's able to register when stuff is like mellower or whatever, not just only loud kinds of things. Other things get a look in, other things get to score high. It's trying to go by stuff where it considers it to be a hit record type of sound from beginning to end. It's tracking not simply the highest score that it was able to reach, but how long it spent doing a good job of making hit record sound throughout the course of the song. You have to hit reset to begin and then start it from scratch. But then if it does an intro and the intro is perfectly balanced and wonderful, it will follow that. Like I can play Stairway to Heaven through this, and it will pretty much like every single part of the song, which is part of the reason why people thought it was such a big hit. From the very mellow beginnings to the screaming guitar solo ending, it finds what is correct about that stuff. And turns out, according to Meter, what it cares about is balance between loudness and detail. And you want to have both of those things in lockstep the entire time. So how do you know whether you're doing that? I have a new control that hasn't been in any previous Forbidden Music. I had to take a week of not being able to put out Forbidden Music because I was updating Meter too often and it kept not being ready. And now I'm finally ready to resume that stuff. And with the current version of everything, I think it's probably about done. The most recent change that I did was more an Easter egg for something that Console X3 will be able to do, which Meter gets to do as a preview, but I'll talk about that somewhere else. The thing that this relates to, there is a hit intensity score, which basically just starts off as a really dim dark purple, and then it ramps up through blue and green and yellow and orange to red, and even beyond red to magenta if you push really hard, for simply measuring what the hit quality is at any given moment. And you'll see that kicks in immediately on the Beatles track. But there's another part where it now tracks tone color. What's tone color? To some extent, tone color is what it is trying to key off of in order to assign these hit record scores. You're watching the internal calculations of Meter as it tries to figure out what's good, what's not. And tone color is the balance between the density of loudness, the density of details, which is not simply how loud or how bright a peak is, but how much is going on over a period of time, like a little cloud. How much is going on over a period of time for loudness, for detail and brightness, and for fullness, which also counts as bass. And you can get a lot of flexibility in with regard to the amount of bass that you have. But it likes having the loudness and the detail balanced super well. What happens when all of these things balance magically well? Tone color ends up being in perfect balance itself. And it's going to be drawn as a stripe, the top stripe along the distinctions between the meters. It's between the loudness and the slew meter. And if it is going into a color, and it's hypersensitive, so it desperately wants to go to a color, that means you have erred in one direction or another. If the tone color stripe goes to red, it's too loud relative to everything else. If it goes to green, you're too bright and detailed relative to everything else. And if it goes to blue, you're too bassy, you're too full relative to everything else, although it can get away with that more easily. It really cares about the brightness and loudness balance. And the thing about the song While My Guitar Gently Weeps is that this one spends all of its time magically teetering back and forth across that perfect white balance on a meter where that perfect white balance really is trying to show you what direction things are leaning. Like, it really doesn't want to just sit on white. It really doesn't want to just sit unbalanced. It is telegraphing as hard as it possibly can, hey, you're leaning this direction. Hey, you're leaning that direction. And While My Guitar Gently Weeps just teeters back and forth across the point of absolute perfection to where there's always something neat happening. And the way that works, I think it's kind of like if it's sitting there being like excessively mellow or whatever, your ear kind of wants to hear the opposite. Your ear wants to hear like, oh, give me some more fullness, give me some more this. If it's sitting around in fullness, you're like, give me more energy. This is too mellow. What would be the perfect level of energy at this moment? And that's what this track keeps doing. This track keeps bringing in new things where you're going, oh, that's perfect, except for how about a little glitter, boom, and then there it is. And it swings across that perfect white balance over into green, and then it swings across that perfect white balance back over into blue or lilac or whatever. It's just this constant shifting, neat colors, all of which are very close to perfection. And it's even pretty looking when you look at it. So I'm sad that you don't get to hear this. It sounds awesome. You won't hear the same thing on Spotify or whatever, because all you're going to hear then is like Giles Martin remixes. This is off of the original record. But all the same, you get to hear little glimpses of what it sounds like if you can get a hold of one of those old Apple vinyl records, hopefully reasonably clean, who knows. And this is the original magic sound that people decided that Beatles were so amazing about. Turns out it follows certain rules, and you will see those rules play out in the way that, and this meter was not dialed in on this song. I didn't go around specifically making it so it's like, oh yeah, we need to make the Beatles sound their best. I really didn't do that. And yet there it is. It nails the balance just about all the time. Without further ado, and again, I'm sorry that you don't get to hear this properly, but you'll hear glimpses of it. While My Guitar Gently Weeps, off of the Beatles' White Album.
Guitar I see. control. Don't know how someone controlled you. The importance of you. Look, I know. Can we? Sure.